Hello everybody, it's me, your good friend Sparky, and welcome back to Pikmin on the Wii. Continuing on with Challenge Mode, on the fourth map of Challenge Mode, which is of course, our good old friend, the Distant Spring. I say, ironically, because I don't like this map that much in general. It's a very mean map in story mode, and it's a pretty mean map in challenge mode, too. There are a lot of enemies here. There are a lot of enemies that weren't here previously here. And, yeah, just in general, it takes a lot of practice to get a decent high score on this map. As you can see by my list of scores there, they're pretty bunched together, all things considered, and they're not as high as some other maps. And that's just because of the general nature of the way this particular map in challenge mode is set up. But regardless, we still gotta do it. We're still gonna see if we can set a high score. Because, it would be no fun if we didn't set a high score, honestly. And yeah, woof. The Distant Spring. On one hand, yeah, the main problem with the Distant Spring is just its hugeness. But in a weird way, this map simultaneously feels pretty claustrophobic. And I think that's just because it's surrounded by water. It's a very unnerving location, because water is just this hazard that is so harmful to any Pikmin that's not a blue Pikmin. It is just instant, oh my gosh, panic, my Pikmin are drowning. And, like, in your mind, the, like, Sonic drowning music starts kicking in and playing, and it's just, it brings back bad memories. And because it's just, there's so much of this particular hazard here, that it's just makes it difficult to figure out a good strategy how to go about growing a lot of Pikmin here. I guess technically a good strategy would be focusing on blue Pikmin and just ignoring everyone else, which I don't know why I didn't think of that. But at the same time, to get a good high score, you've still got to make use of the other Pikmin types, because you won't get as many Pikmin from the non-blue pellets if you bring them back to the blue onions, you know? The whole point is to grow a lot of Pikmin, and if you're not growing a lot of Pikmin, you're missing the point of challenge mode. So, yeah, it's definitely a map I don't like playing in general, and it's just, yeah, weirdly unnerving and kind of claustrophobic because you're surrounded by water. You're technically out in an open space, but for any Pikmin that's not a blue Pikmin, these big pools of water might as well just be like big walls in the way. But we do get to see our good old friend the Mamuta here. He is typically not in the Distant Spring. He typically hangs out at the impact site. And just in general, he's typically pretty harmless. We probably technically don't even need to deal with him. But I usually end up going for him anyway, because enemies usually end up being worth a lot of Pikmin over general pellets and stuff. It's just that he's a bit of a time waster, considering you have to keep re-picking your Pikmin that he decides to smash into the ground. The one good thing, though, is that any Pikmin he smashes instantly becomes a flower Pikmin. Not Olimar, though. If Olimar gets smashed and gets trapped in the ground, he doesn't grow a flower. He just takes damage. Which seems a bit unfair to me, honestly. Maybe Olimar wants to be a pretty flower, ollie guy. That does bring me to a subject, though, of, something we didn't talk about. The alternate endings to the first Pikmin game, which take place when either A, you collect all of the ship parts that aren't optional and leave the optional parts behind. Or B, you just don't collect enough ship parts in general, and Olimar has a bad time. In the normal ending, where Olimar does not collect all the ship parts, you don't bother with the optional guys, and stuff like that. In that ending, Olimar just kind of takes off and ends up... You don't get, like, as big of a celebration at the end with, like, the onions taking off into the atmosphere after Olimar, things like that. And Olimar just kind of leaves for home, I believe. In the bad ending, though, very interestingly, Olimar attempts to take off and fails, and the dolphin comes crashing back to the planet's surface. And unfortunately, Olimar is not that lucky in that scenario. He does not survive the second crash. And Olimar basically dies in the bad ending of Pikmin. And what the Pikmin end up doing is they bring him to an onion. He goes inside, and he comes out as kind of like an Olimar Pikmin hybrid. It's very strange, and it, like, creates all sorts of weird, like, alternate timeline scenarios of Pikmin Olimar living out his life on the Pikmin planet. Though it does beg the question, who's there to pick Pikmin Olimar? Does he remain just in the ground from then on? It's just a little strange, and it raises a lot of weird questions that we never really get an answer for, because obviously, canonically, Olimar does escape and make it out alive. I have to assume, if we're talking, like, Pikmin canon, I have to assume the good ending, the best ending, is the technical canon ending. Because Olimar, at the beginning of Pikmin 2, does arrive back on Hokotate with the dolphin in a seemingly complete state. But at the same time, I'm actually not sure. Like, what does Nintendo consider to be the canon ending of Pikmin 1? Is it the normal ending, or is it the good ending? I suppose the only way to really find out is to ask Mr. Shigeru Miyamoto himself. The Pikmin daddy, as it were. Because yes, Pikmin is one of good old Mr. Miyamoto's creations. And a very good one at that. That guy, he's got a good head on his shoulders. He makes a lot of fun stuff. Super Mario, Zelda, Pikmin, yeah. A lot of the big names of Nintendo. Though, honestly, Pikmin still probably isn't their biggest name. But the fact that Pikmin is getting Pikmin 4, and has continued to steadily, but slowly, get sequels and re-releases and things like that, I think that does say a lot for Pikmin's, like, overall popularity. It may not be the most well-known Nintendo franchise, it may not even necessarily be, like, one of the most beloved in people's eyes, but it's still a very, very good series with a very dedicated following that I am proud to be a part of. I saw a lot of excitement come up on Twitter and other social media things after the Pikmin 4 announcement, and it was very heartwarming to know that, yes, there do exist other Pikmin fans out there who are just as happy about Pikmin 4 as I am. And oh boy, this frog. Man, that frog's a jerk. All frogs are jerks, honestly. And just, in general, giving us a bad time and putting stuff right near the water where we risk causing Pikmin drownings and things like that. It's just a mean thing to do, honestly. But, frogs, you gotta deal with them. Unfortunately. It's just one of the many kind of jerkish enemies that exist in the Distant Spring. And, yeah, challenge mode just adds in a few more with things like the puff stool. It's not great. It's not a great time, honestly. And because of just how big this map is, in general, it's hard to try and figure out the best way to go about things when it's not feeling... It's just so weird how this map can go from feeling super claustrophobic without being able to, like, do anything effectively to just being this completely wide open, impossible to navigate space because there's just too much ground to cover. It is just, in general, a bad time. And then there's these guys, some puffy blowhogs, kind of hanging out and just being jerks because I believe there's a pearly clamp pearl right over that way. Which does, in fact, mean that there are actually 3 clamps on this map. Something that I was not sure about while, or rather, I didn't remember much about while going over the GameCube version of this challenge mode's footage. And, man, yeah, there are enemies everywhere, and your Pikmin are constantly going to be in danger of accidentally wandering in the way of a Pikmin, an enemy's paths. A Pikmin path going right through enemy territory. And you just generally have to worry about them getting smashed or eaten or stuff like that. And it's just not a good time. It's just not. And they add in the fiery blowhogs on this map, which makes dealing with them even worse because there's water everywhere, and if they fling your Pikmin into harm's way, it's just, ugh. I'm not a fan of the Distant Spring. I know it's the end game area, basically, aside from the final trial. And I know it's meant to be challenging, but there's a limit. There really is. See, like, all the way across the beach there, this guy flung some red guys into the water. And now there's blue Pikmin that are on fire, and it's a bad time. It's a bad time in general. But yeah, there are 3 Clam Pearls on this map. One of them is over here, guarded by freaking blowhogs, and it's just a bad time. And for some reason, these blue guys just weren't saving the red Pikmin from drowning, which they're technically supposed to do. And it's just... man, it's a mess. Honestly, it becomes... I mean, those guys got that blowhog up there turned around. And I ended up doing probably a dumb decision here, and I decide to take on the blowhog with blue Pikmin, just to get him out of the way. Because it's just generally gonna be a bad time otherwise. We've gotta get them out of the way so we can get the Clamp. And there's grass there distracting the Pikmin, and it's just... ugh. Technically, yeah, you don't need red Pikmin to take on the fiery blowhogs. The red Pikmin just make it way easier and way simpler to take care of. But at the same time, it's just... it's annoying. It's annoying how it's set up. It's just such a frustrating thing to deal with, where you have a fire-spewing enemy. In both cases in this game when fiery blowhogs show up, you have a fiery-spewing enemy surrounded by water. There's a ton of water in the Forest Navel, where the fiery blowhogs are. There's a ton of fire right in this... a ton of water right in this area where the fiery blowhogs are. It's just set up for something to go wrong. Either you try to take on the fire-spewing enemies without red Pikmin and get all of your Pikmin potentially set ablaze, or you try and take them on with red Pikmin, but risk the red Pikmin getting tossed into the water. And that just ended up being a bad time in general. Yeah. Not a good thing. Not a great thing. This is, like, 100% a map that takes a lot of sort of trial and error to figure out the best way to go about things. Which is, why my scores generally don't end up, being particularly great on this map, honestly. 217 Pikmin right now. We're at about the last quarter of the day. So it's just a matter of, at this point, just trying to get things that are closest to camp. Like I said, if you're going for, like, a really high score, there are 3 Pearly Clamps on this map. There's one over where the massage machine was. There was one over across that bridged area where the gluon drive was, I believe. The really big part that took 50 Pikmin to carry. And there's one over across the way this way where the Candy Pop buds were in story mode. So there's potential to get a lot of Pikmin on this map, but the fact that it is such a big map filled with so many enemies, it makes it just that much harder to figure out the best way to get anything done. Because, I mean, those 3 pearls that are scattered about, that's 150 Pikmin right there. You get 150 Pikmin, you're well on your way to getting, like, a score of 300 something, I think. But it's just, you know, trying to figure out the right way to go about it. Which, admittedly, I don't know. I don't know what is the absolute correct way to do this map, just because it's kind of a frustrating map to deal with, and I just would rather not, honestly. I'd rather spend my time in challenge mode on maps like the Forest of Hope that I enjoy playing, and the Forest Navel, where there's not a bunch of crazy enemies killing me. Ironically, considering the Forest Navel in story mode is also usually an enemy-filled nightmare. But, yeah, you know. You have a flint bug just kind of running into a wall here. He's fine. He's having a good time. It's okay. And now, it is sundown. The panic and try to get everything back to camp as quick as possible. And yeah, off in the distance there, you can see the 3rd Clamp Pearl over there. It's weird. In the GameCube version, I got one of the pearls. In the Wii version, I got a different pearl. And, then there's this part where these blue Pikmin lead this yellow guy into the water. I can only assume it was Clyde, because of course Clyde would do something like that. And, yeah. I got one pearl in one version, I got a different pearl in the other, and I completely, either forgot about or just didn't end up going after the 3rd pearl in both of them. Because I just don't know the best way to go about getting all 3, honestly. You've got to take out several powerful enemies in the meanwhile, and it just... it ends up being kind of an awkward time, honestly. But we do end up getting a decent number of Pikmin here. Last few seconds of the day, there's not really any point to going after anything else, but might as well just torture this Blowhog for fun. Accidentally throwing some yellow guys over there. And somehow, that yellow Pikmin did not get set ablaze just now, even though he ran right through fire. Again, I can only assume that was Clyde. But there you go. That is the Distant Spring, the Wii version, challenge mode, completed to somewhat limited success. I definitely, if I took the opportunity to sort of figure out an optimal strategy for this map, I feel like I could break the 300 mark. But as it stands, we do get 278 Pikmin, and we do set a new high score for this map. Very nice, very nice. Gosh, we ended up getting a lot of blue Pikmin after all. But that is going to call it for right now. Thank you very much for watching. When the Wii version of Pikmin returns, that will be our final Pikmin video. So that's coming up soon. This is your good friend Sparky signing off for now, though, and I will catch you later.